The rusted sign above my garage read, "Junkyard 12, we fix what others can't." It was a modest claim for what was essentially a scrapyard, floating at the edge of civilized space. But modesty had kept me alive this long. My name is Marcus Hale, and 3 years ago, I traded my military wings for a wrench and a quiet corner of the galaxy where nobody asked questions. That morning started like any other. I was elbow-deep in the guts of a Terran freighter's hyperdrive, grease smearing my already filthy coveralls, when the distinctive whine of a Galactic Alliance cruiser's engines cut through the workshop's ambient noise. Through the grimy viewport, I watched the sleek vessel descend with the kind of precision that screamed official business. My stomach tightened. Official business at the edge of nowhere rarely meant anything good. The cruiser's landing struts had barely kissed the deck when its main hatch hissed open. 3 figures emerged, their Alliance uniforms pristine and their expressions colder than the vacuum outside. The one in front, a Corthian with pale blue skin and 4 arms, carried himself with the insufferable authority of middle management. Marcus Hale. His voice carried the metallic tinge of a universal translator working overtime. I wiped my hands on a rag that only made them dirtier. Depends who's asking and what they're selling. Administrator Zektal, Behavioral Correction Division. He produced a holopad with a flourish that suggested he practiced it in front of a mirror. We have a special assignment for you. Not interested. I turned back to the hyperdrive. I fix ships, not whatever mess the Alliance has gotten itself into this week. I'm afraid refusal isn't an option. His tone remained professionally neutral, but there was steel underneath. Clause 43, subsection 8 of your land lease agreement. You agreed to provide rehabilitation services when required by the Alliance. I froze, wrench halfway to a bolt. That clause, buried in 800 pages of legal nonsense I'd signed just to get this forgotten corner of space. That was for mechanical rehabilitation, fixing Alliance equipment. The language is quite broad, actually. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. And today, we need you to rehabilitate something rather special. Before I could protest, one of his companions returned to the ship. Moments later, she emerged, practically dragging a smaller figure down the ramp. My first thought was that someone had weaponized a durable and aimed it directly at my garage. She couldn't have been more than 5 feet tall, with skin that shimmered between pearl and silver, depending on how the light hit it. Her hair fell in waves of liquid mercury to her shoulders, and her eyes were twin pools of molten silver that currently blazed with enough fury to power a small colony. She wore what looked like expensive civilian clothes, though they were rumpled and torn in places that suggested she hadn't gone quietly. "This is Vera of House Siltheta," Zektal announced with the enthusiasm of someone getting rid of a particularly troublesome pet. "She requires immediate behavioral adjustment." Vera's response was a string of words in Solari that my translator flagged as untranslatable, but probably weren't compliments. She yanked her arm free from the guard's grip and straightened her clothes with as much dignity as someone who'd clearly been in a fight could muster. "What exactly did she do?" I asked, though I was already calculating how to get out of this. "Diplomatic incident." Zektal's expression suggested he was understating things. "She disrupted a trade negotiation, insulted 3 ambassadors, and may have caused a minor interstellar incident involving a sacred Altarian fertility statue and a fusion welder." "It was ugly anyway," Vera muttered in accented but perfect English, her first words since arriving. "And they were lying about the trade routes." "The point is," Zektal continued, ignoring her, "she requires discipline, structure, the kind that only honest, hard work can provide." He gestured at my garage with barely concealed disgust. "This seems perfect. You can't just dump her here like unwanted cargo." "Actually, we can..." He held up the holopad again. 3 standard months. You provide accommodation, work assignment, and behavioral correction as needed. The Alliance will compensate you at standard rates. And if I refuse, then you're in breach of contract, and we'll need to find another tenant for this facility." His smile was all teeth and no warmth. "I'm sure someone would love this strategic location." The strategic location of absolutely nowhere. But the threat was clear. They'd boot me out, and I'd lose the only peace I'd found since leaving the service. I looked at Vera, who was studying me with those silver eyes, like she was calculating exactly how many ways she could make my life miserable. "Fine." The word tasted like hyperdrive coolant. 3 months. "Excellent." Zektal practically threw a metal case at my feet. "Her belongings. The inhibitor collar she's wearing will prevent her from leaving the station's proximity. Any attempt to remove it or escape will alert Alliance security." I hadn't even noticed the thin band of metal around her neck, designed to look like jewelry, but clearly anything but. "You collared her like an animal. Standard procedure for flight risks." He was already backing toward his ship. "Good luck, Mr. Hale. You'll need it." They left with the kind of haste that suggested they were afraid I'd change my mind, or Vera would do something else diplomatically catastrophic. The cruiser's engines hadn't even faded before Vera turned to me, arms crossed and chin raised defiantly. "So," she said, each word dripping with disdain, "you're my jailer." "Apparently." I picked up the case, surprised by its weight. "Look, I don't want this any more than you do. We'll figure out some arrangement where you stay out of my way. I stay out of yours. And in 3 months, we never have to see each other again." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. How wonderfully human. Avoid the problem and hope it goes away. As opposed to what starting interstellar incidents with fusion welders. "At least I act when something's wrong." She stalked past me into the garage, her nose wrinkling at the smell of oil and ozone. "This place is disgusting." "This place is home." I followed her, noting how she moved with a dancer's grace despite her apparent anger. "And for the next 3 months, it's yours too. So maybe try not to insult it every 5 seconds. She spun to face me, and for a moment, something else flickered behind the anger in her eyes. Fear, loneliness. It was gone before I could be sure. "Where am I supposed to sleep in a toolbox?" "There's a spare quarters module attached to the workshop. It's basic but clean." I led her through the maze of half-disassembled ships and salvaged parts. "Used to belong to my assistant before he decided piracy paid better." "Charming company you keep," says the woman who caused a diplomatic incident with power tools. We reached the quarters, a small but functional space with a bed, desk, and basic amenities. Vera surveyed it with the expression of someone examining a crime scene. "This is barely fit for a maintenance drone." "Well, Your Highness, feel free to redecorate with whatever's in your case." I turned to leave, then paused. "Dinner's at 7. We eat in the main workshop. Don't be late." "Or what you'll collar me." She touched the band at her throat, and for the first time, her voice cracked slightly. "I didn't put that on you," I said quietly. "And I won't treat you like you're wearing it. But I need this place, and that means we're stuck together. So maybe we can try not to make each other miserable." She didn't respond, just turned away to open her case. I caught a glimpse of strange crystalline objects, something that looked like a miniature holographic projector, and what appeared to be a stuffed animal from a world I didn't recognize before she snapped it shut. The rest of the day passed in tense silence. I returned to my work, trying to focus on the hyperdrive, but finding my attention drawn to the occasional crash or curse from the quarters module. Whatever Vera was doing in there, it sounded like she was either redecorating or planning my murder. 7 o'clock came and went with no sign of her. I ate my reconstituted protein and synthetic vegetables alone, listening to the station's recyclers hum their endless song. At 8, I knocked on her door. "Go away. You need to eat." "I'd rather starve than eat whatever passes for food here." I sighed and left a tray outside her door. Pride was all well and good, but hunger had a way of winning eventually. The next morning, I found the tray empty, and Vera in my workshop, systematically taking apart a customer's atmospheric processor. "What are you doing?" I managed to keep my voice level, despite the urge to scream. "Learning." She didn't look up from the components spread across the workbench like mechanical organs. "Your primitive technology is fascinating in its inefficiency. That primitive technology belongs to a customer who's paying me to fix it, not have it dissected. I'm improving it." She held up a component I didn't recognize. "Your compression matrix was causing a feedback loop in the tertiary systems. I've recalibrated the flow dynamics." I snatched the part from her hand, ready to lecture her about touching customer property, when I realized she was right. The modification was brilliant, actually, solving a problem I'd been struggling with for days. "How did you know how to do that?" She shrugged, but I caught a hint of pride in her expression. "Solari children learn atmospheric dynamics before we can walk. It's basic education." "Well, your basic education just solved a problem that's been driving me crazy." I examined her work more closely. "But next time, ask before you touch customer equipment. Next time, don't leave it lying around where anyone can improve it." Despite myself, I almost smiled. "Fine, you want to help. You can assist with the reassembly, but you do it my way, following my instructions. Your way is slow and inefficient. My way keeps customers happy and pays for this place. You want to eat, you work. You want to work, you follow the rules." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "Fine, but when your way doesn't work, we try mine." That set the pattern for the next few days. Vera would find ways to be helpful while simultaneously being insufferable. She'd fix a problem I'd been working on for hours, then spend the next hour explaining why human engineering was fundamentally flawed. She'd reorganize my tool collection for optimal efficiency, leaving me unable to find anything, then act wounded when I complained. The worst part was that she was usually right. Her modifications worked. Her organizational system, once I understood it, was actually better. And her casual dismissal of problems that had stumped me for days was both humiliating and oddly impressive. A week into our forced cohabitation, I found her in the workshop at 3 a.m, surrounded by holographic displays showing star charts and trade routes. "Can't sleep?" I asked, settling onto a crate nearby. "Solari need less rest than humans." She manipulated the display, highlighting a route between two systems. Another of our many advantages. "What are you looking at?" "The trade routes they were negotiating when I interfered." Her fingers danced through the holograms, pulling up economic data and shipping manifests. "Look at this. They're routing through the Kellen Nebula, adding 8 days to transport time. The nebula's dangerous. Pirates use it as cover." "Exactly." She turned to me, and for once, there was no disdain in her expression, just frustration. "Someone's taking bribes to route ships through pirate territory. The ambassadors knew it, but they were all getting a cut. When I pointed it out, they said I was too young to understand complex negotiations. So you introduced their sacred statue to a fusion welder." It seemed like an appropriate response at the time. A small smile tugged at her lips. "You should have seen their faces." "I can imagine." I studied the data she'd collected. "You were right, though. This is corruption on a massive scale. Being right doesn't matter if no one listens." The bitterness in her voice was sharp enough to cut steel. "My family sent me away because I embarrassed them. The Alliance dumped me here because I inconvenienced them. Nobody cares about the truth, just about maintaining their comfortable lies." "Welcome to the galaxy," I said, not unkindly. "The truth's never been particularly popular." "Is that why you're hiding out here?" She gestured at the workshop. "A human with your skills could be making real money in the core systems." "I like the quiet." "Liar." She turned back to her displays. "Nobody chooses exile without a reason." She was right. Of course. But I wasn't ready to share my reasons any more than she seemed ready to share hers. We sat in comfortable silence, watching fake stars chart real corruption across the holographic void. The next morning brought a new crisis in the form of a distress signal. A refugee transport had suffered engine failure and was drifting toward the asteroid field that bordered my little corner of space. The Alliance patrol that should have responded was mysteriously unavailable, and the next closest help was 2 days away. "We have to help them," Vera said, already pulling up the transport specifications on my workshop displays. "We don't have to do anything." I was already reaching for my emergency kit. "But we're going to anyway. Can you handle the workshop comm systems? Someone needs to guide them while I take a shuttle out." "I'm coming with you." "Like hell you are. That caller won't let you leave the station." "The station includes any registered auxiliary vessels." She smiled triumphantly. "I checked the regulations. Very thoroughly." I wanted to argue, but time was wasting. "Fine. But you follow my orders exactly. Space rescue isn't a game. Neither is letting people die because regulations are inconvenient." 20 minutes later, we were aboard my shuttle. A battered but reliable craft I'd rebuilt from 3 different wrecks. Vera had taken the co-pilot seat without asking, and was already running calculations on approach vectors. "The transport's drift will put them in the asteroid field in 43 minutes, she reported. "Their hull won't survive the impacts. Then we'd better hurry." I pushed the engines harder than was strictly safe, feeling the shuttle shake with the strain. "Can you handle the magnetic grapples?" "I redesigned the targeting system while you were getting the emergency supplies." Her fingers flew over the controls. "Your accuracy should be improved by 30%. "You had 5 minutes." I work fast when lives are at stake. The transport came into view. A massive, ungainly vessel designed to carry hundreds of souls seeking better lives. It was spinning slowly, venting atmosphere from a dozen small breaches. The asteroid field loomed behind it like a wall of death. "There are over 300 people on that ship," Vera whispered, her earlier bravado gone. "Then we'd better not mess this up." I brought us alongside, matching their rotation as best I could. Grapples on my mark. Vera's hands hovered over the controls, steady despite the situation. For someone who claimed to hate humans, she seemed pretty invested in saving a ship full of them. "Mark!" The grapples fired, Vera's modifications working perfectly. They locked onto the transport's hull with a solid thunk that vibrated through our shuttle. Now comes the hard part. I engaged the engines, trying to alter the transport's trajectory without tearing either ship apart. "We need to slow their spin first, then pull them clear." "The stress on our hull is approaching critical," Vera reported, her voice calm despite the warning lights beginning to flash. "We need more power to the engines." "We don't have more power." "We do if we redirect from life support." She was already working. "We can survive on emergency oxygen for the time we need." "That's insane." "That's mathematics." She finished the redirect, and I felt the engines surge with new power. "Now pull, you stubborn human." I pulled. The shuttle screamed in protest, every bolt and weld straining against forces they were never designed to handle. The transport's spin began to slow, degree by agonizing degree. Through the viewport, I could see the asteroid field growing closer, individual rocks becoming visible. 10 minutes to impact, Vera announced. "We're not going to make it." "Yes, we are." She unstrapped from her seat and disappeared into the shuttle's rear compartment. Moments later, I heard the distinctive whine of her doing something to the power core that definitely voided several warranties. "What are you doing?" "Giving you the boost you need." She returned to her seat, a fusion cutter in her hand and scorch marks on her expensive clothes. "I may have slightly overclocked the reactor." "Slightly?" "Push the engines to 120%. They'll hold for 8 minutes before melting." "And if they don't?" "Then we die heroes instead of living as disappointments." There was something in her voice, a raw honesty that made me look at her. Really, look at her. Behind the arrogance and the acid tongue was someone who'd been told she was wrong so many times, she'd started to believe it. "Hold on," I said, and pushed the engines past every red line they had. The shuttle bucked like a living thing, but it held, inch by inch. We pulled the transport away from the asteroids. With 30 seconds to spare, we cleared the field's edge, both ships intact if significantly worse for wear. The transport's captain, a grizzled human woman named Foster, nearly cried when her crew managed to restore communications. "I don't know who you are, but you just saved 318 souls. We're in your debt." "Just doing what anyone would do," I replied, ignoring Vera's snort of disbelief. "No," Captain Foster said firmly. "The Alliance patrol said they couldn't risk it. You're the only ones who came." After we'd towed the transport to safety and helped patch their worst breaches, Vera was uncharacteristically quiet on the flight back to the station. "You okay?" I asked as we docked. "They were mostly humans," she said softly. "The refugees. Your people. But you risked everything to save them." "They were people. That's all that mattered." She looked at me with those silver eyes, and something shifted in her expression. My family would have calculated the political advantage first, determined if saving them would benefit House Siltheta. "And you?" "I would have saved them," she paused. "But I would have complained about it the entire time." I laughed, surprising us both. "Well, you did redesign my targeting system mid-rescue, so I'd say you're improving." "Your targeting system was garbage," she said, but there was warmth in her voice. "Like most of your technology." "My garbage technology just saved 300 people." "Our garbage technology," she corrected. "I'm taking partial credit." That night, she joined me for dinner without being asked. We ate in companionable silence, both exhausted from the day's events. As I was cleaning up, she spoke. "I've been thinking about the trade routes, the corruption I uncovered. We have enough evidence to expose it. The Alliance won't listen. You already tried that." "The Alliance won't listen to a disgraced Solari noble." She met my eyes. "But they might listen to a hero human mechanic who just saved a transport full of refugees." "I'm no hero." "No," she agreed. "You're something better. You're someone who acts when it matters. Consequences be damned." She stood to leave, then paused. "That's why they exiled you. Isn't it you did the right thing at the wrong time?" I didn't answer, but she nodded as if I had. 3 months, she said. "That's how long we have to make them listen. You want to take on the entire Alliance bureaucracy from a junkyard at the edge of space. I want to make them regret dumping me here like unwanted cargo." Her smile was sharp and dangerous. "Don't you want to know what it feels like to win for once?" I thought about the transport, about Captain Foster's tears, about the 318 souls who'd lived to see another day because we'd acted when others wouldn't. "What did you have in mind?" Her smile widened. "First, we're going to need to upgrade your communications array. Then, we're going to hack into the Alliance shipping database. After that," she shrugged, "we improvise." "That's your plan, improvise." "My plans got me exiled. Your mechanical intuition saved a transport. Maybe together, we can find something that works." As she walked back to her quarters, I realized the tight feeling in my chest when the Alliance cruiser had arrived was gone. In its place was something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Dangerous. Reckless hope. 3 months. 3 months to expose corruption, fight the system, and maybe find redemption for both of us. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly what I needed. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small dramas of the creatures that traveled between them. But in my little workshop at the edge of everything, something was beginning. Something that would shake the comfortable lies of the powerful and prove that sometimes the discarded and forgotten could change the galaxy. I just hoped we'd survive long enough to see it through. The next morning, I woke to find Vera had transformed my communications array into something that looked like it had been designed by a mad scientist with an unlimited budget and a grudge against conventional physics. "What did you do to my equipment?" I stared at the mass of crystalline components and pulsing energy fields that used to be a simple transmitter. "Improved it." She didn't look up from the holographic display she was manipulating. "Your signal range was pathetic. Now we can reach core systems without relay stations." "That's impossible. The power requirements alone would drain the station." "Only if you're using human calculations." She gestured at a component that seemed to be bending light around itself. "Solari quantum resonance technology. Much more efficient." "Where did you get Solari military tech?" "From my luggage." She finally looked at me, a challenging glint in her silver eyes. "You didn't think I only packed clothes, did you?" I examined the modifications more closely. The work was brilliant, integrating alien technology with human systems in ways that shouldn't have been possible. "This must be worth a fortune." "It's worth our freedom." She pulled up a data stream on the display. "I've been monitoring Alliance communications. The corruption goes deeper than just trade routes. Look." The data she showed me was damning. Payment records, coded messages, shipping manifests that didn't match official logs. A web of deceit that touched dozens of systems and hundreds of officials. "This is enough to bring down half the Alliance Trade Commission," I said. "Which is why they'll never let it see light." Vera's expression darkened. "Unless we make it impossible to ignore." Before I could respond, an alarm echoed through the station. A ship was approaching, fast and unscheduled. Through the viewport, I saw a sleek vessel that screamed trouble, its hull decorated with the garish colors, favored by mercenaries who wanted everyone to know they were dangerous. "Friends of yours?" Vera asked. "Never seen them before." I pulled up the station's defensive systems, such as they were. "But they're not responding to hails." The ship docked without permission, magnetic locks engaging with a clang that reverberated through the station. My hand went to the plasma pistol I kept under the main console, but Vera stopped me with a touch. "Let me handle this." She straightened her clothes and adopted an expression of bored superiority that could have frozen a star. "I've dealt with their type before." 3 figures entered my workshop like they owned it. The leader was a Raxian, 7 feet of scales and muscle, with cybernetic implants that made him look like he'd gotten into a fight with a surgical robot and lost. His companions were human, or close enough, with the kind of augmentations that suggested they valued function over form. "Marcus Hale." The Raxian's voice sounded like gravel in a cement mixer. "He's indisposed," Vera said before I could speak, her tone suggesting she found the very existence of our visitors offensive. "I'm handling station operations. State your business or leave." The Raxian laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Cute. The human hired himself a secretary. We're here for payment. Hale owes Boss Krogar 50,000 credits." "I don't owe anyone anything," I started, but Vera cut me off with a gesture. "Proof of debt," she demanded. The Raxian produced a holopad showing what looked like official documentation. Vera examined it with the intensity of someone studying a suspected forgery. "This is fraudulent," she announced. "The signature matrix has been altered. The timestamp doesn't match Alliance records, and the contract references regulations that were amended 2 years ago. You're either very stupid or very optimistic." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The Raxian's hand moved toward the weapon at his hip. "Nobody calls Grax stupid." "Then you're optimistic." Vera's smile could have cut diamond. "Optimistic enough to think you can extort a veteran with a forged document. Optimistic enough to think the Alliance won't investigate why you're harassing the mechanic who just saved 300 refugees. Optimistic enough to think I won't have your ship impounded for illegal docking." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" She pulled up a holographic display showing the mercenary ship. Your vessel's registration expired 6 months ago. You're carrying unshielded plasma weapons in violation of Safety Code 936. And that radiation leak from your engine core. That's a Class 3 environmental hazard. She paused, letting the implications sink in. I can have Alliance enforcement here in 20 minutes. They'll impound your ship, fine you into bankruptcy, and probably find several other violations I haven't bothered to mention. Or you can leave now, and we pretend this never happened. The Raxian's scales shifted colors, a sign of barely controlled rage. For a moment, I thought we were about to have a firefight in my workshop. Then he laughed, a sound even worse than before. You've got spine, little silver girl. Boss Krogar likes that. He'll be in touch. They left as abruptly as they'd arrived, their ship departing with enough thrust to rattle every tool in the workshop. Who's Boss Krogar? I asked once they were gone. No idea. Vera collapsed into a chair, her hands shaking slightly. But the forgery was real. Someone's trying to pressure you. And you just made yourself a target, too. I was already a target. She gestured at the collar around her neck. At least now I'm a target with a purpose. That night, I found her in the quarters module, surrounded by holographic displays showing technical schematics I didn't recognize. Planning to build something? I asked. Planning to survive. She pulled up a new display. Boss Krogar is connected to the trade route corruption, small-time criminal. But he's been paid to harass certain mechanics who ask too many questions. How do you know that? I hacked his financial records while his thugs were here. She smiled at my expression. Multitasking is another Solari advantage. We need to be careful. If they're targeting us already, we're onto something bigger than we thought. Good. Her eyes blazed with determination. Let them come. I'm tired of running. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Vera worked on mysterious modifications to the station systems, while I handled regular customers, trying to maintain the appearance of normalcy. But normal was a ship that had already sailed. It started small. Supply deliveries were delayed. Parts I'd ordered arrived damaged. Customers canceled appointments with vague excuses. Someone was squeezing us, slowly but steadily. They're trying to bankrupt you, Vera observed, reviewing the financial records. Death by 1,000 cuts. Then we need to hit back before we bleed out. Agreed. She pulled up the data she'd been collecting. I've found something interesting. There's a pattern to the corruption. Every 3 weeks, certain ships change their routes to pass through specific coordinates. Always different ships, but the same coordinates. A meeting point. Or a transfer point. She highlighted the location on a star chart. It's in neutral space, outside Alliance jurisdiction, perfect for illegal activities. The next transfer is in 4 days. Then we have 4 days to prepare. She stood, energy crackling around her like she was channeling the station's power grid. We're going to catch them in the act. That's insane. We're talking about taking on organized crime and corrupt officials with a broken-down shuttle and good intentions. And Solari technology, she added. Plus your apparently legendary piloting skills. Where did you hear about my piloting? I looked you up. She pulled up a military record with classifications I thought had been sealed. Marcus Hale, decorated pilot. 3 commendations for valor. Dishonorably discharged for disobeying direct orders during the Kelros incident. I felt my jaw clench. That's classified? Was classified. I'm very good with computers. Her expression softened slightly. You saved a colony ship full of civilians instead of following orders to abandon them. 600 lives. And got drummed out for it. And got justice for it. She moved closer, her silver eyes intense. Just like we're going to get justice now. Before I could respond, another alarm sounded. This time, it wasn't a ship. It was a distress signal from inside the asteroid field. Could be a trap, I said, already moving toward the shuttle. Could be someone who needs help, Vera countered, matching my pace. We launched within minutes. the shuttle's repaired systems humming with Vera's modifications. The distress signal led us deep into the asteroid field, where floating rocks the size of buildings drifted in a deadly ballet. There! Vera pointed at a small courier ship wedged between two asteroids. Its hull was cracked, atmosphere venting in frozen crystals. Life signs. 1 week. She was already calculating approach vectors. We have maybe 10 minutes before complete life support failure. I maneuvered the shuttle close, using the asteroid's rotation to mask our approach. The courier's design was familiar, but something felt wrong. Marcus, Vera said quietly. That's an Alliance intelligence vessel. Before I could respond, the courier's hull exploded outward, not from damage, but from a concealed weapons port. The plasma bolt missed us by inches, only my reflexes saving us from instant vaporization. Trap, I grunted, throwing the shuttle into a spiraling dive. Obviously, Vera's hands flew over the controls, activating countermeasures I didn't know we had. But not for us. Look, another ship emerged from behind a massive asteroid. Krogar's mercenaries, weapons hot and targeting systems locked on the courier. They're fighting each other, I realized. And we're caught in the middle. Vera pulled up a tactical display. Unless we make them fight each other harder. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that courier has intelligence files we could use, and Krogar's ship has evidence of who's paying him. Her smile was predatory. I'm thinking we let them damage each other, then salvage both. That's completely insane. That's strategic opportunism. Another plasma bolt. This one from Krogar's ship, carved a line of molten metal across our hull. All right, I said, pushing the engines to their limits. Insane it is. What followed was the most chaotic 15 minutes of my life since leaving the military. I flew the shuttle like a madman, using the asteroids as cover, while the two enemy ships tried to destroy each other and us. Vera managed our weapons and shields, somehow keeping us alive despite being outgunned 10-1. The courier's taking heavy damage, she reported. Their data core will be exposed in 30 seconds. And Krogar. His ship's shields are failing. Perfect time for a surgical strike. I saw what she was planning. Dangerous, precise, and absolutely brilliant. Do it. She fired our magnetic grapples, not at either ship, but at a small asteroid. The sudden anchor point swung us in an arc that brought us alongside the courier, just as its data core was exposed. Vera's second shot was a low-power laser that carved the core free without destroying it. Her third shot was another grapple that snagged the core and reeled it in. Got it, now Krogar. But Krogar had seen our maneuver and was turning his weapons on us. His ship's main cannon glowed with building charge. We're not going to make it, I said. Yes, we are. Vera did something to our shields that made them flare brilliant white. Close your eyes. I did, just as she overloaded our shield matrix. The explosion of light was visible through my eyelids, a miniature sun that lasted only seconds, but was enough to blind every sensor in the area. When I could see again, we were clear of the asteroid field. Krogar's ship was spinning out of control, its navigation systems fried. The courier was nothing but debris. How? I asked. Solari shield technology includes a defensive burst option, very effective against targeting systems. She held up the data core. And very worth it. Back at the station, we cracked open the data core. What we found made the corruption we'd already uncovered look like pocket change. This goes all the way to the sector administrator, Vera breathed. They're not just skimming trade routes. They're selling shipping schedules to pirates, facilitating slave trading, even running weapons to separatist groups. This is enough to start a war. Or prevent one. She looked at me. If we release this, the Alliance will have to act. The public outcry alone would force their hand, and paint a target on us the size of a solar system. We're already targets. She touched the collar at her throat. At least this way, we're targets with a voice. I thought about it. The safe play was to bury the data, serve out Vera's 3 months, and go back to my quiet life. But looking at her, seeing the fire in her eyes and the determination in her stance, I knew that safe play had never really been an option. "We need more than just data," I said. "We need witnesses, physical evidence, something they can't deny or bury." "The transfer point," she said immediately. "If we can document what happens there, catch them in the act, we'd need to get close without being detected. My shuttle's good, but it's not that good." "No," she agreed, "but with some modifications, it could be invisible." She pulled up schematics she'd been working on. A cloaking system that combined human stealth technology with Silari energy manipulation. It was theoretical, untested, and probably impossible. "This would take weeks to build," I said. "We have 4 days. Even if we could build it, the power requirements would drain our systems in minutes. Not with this." She produced another piece of Silari technology from her seemingly endless collection. A power cell, no bigger than my fist, that hummed with contained energy. Quantum battery. Enough power to run a small city for a year. "Why do you have a quantum battery in your luggage?" "Why don't you?" she countered. "Now, are we doing this or not?" 72 hours. That's how long we worked without real sleep, fueled by stimulants, determination, and an increasingly comfortable partnership. Vera's theoretical knowledge combined with my practical experience created something that shouldn't have existed. A shuttle that could ghost through space like a shadow. "It's ugly," Vera observed, looking at our creation. "It's functional." "It's ugly and functional. The worst combination." But she was smiling. "Just like this station." "Just like us," I said without thinking. She looked at me, something unreadable in her silver eyes. "We're not ugly." "Functional, then." "Definitely functional." She turned back to the shuttle. "And in 6 hours, we're going to be functionally invisible while we destroy some careers." The night before the mission, we sat in the workshop reviewing our plan. Everything was ready. The shuttle was modified, our recording equipment was prepared, and we'd even managed to send encrypted copies of our preliminary findings to journalists in 3 different systems as insurance. "Are you scared?" Vera asked suddenly. "Terrified," I admitted. "You—" "Exhilarated." She leaned back in her chair. "For the first time in my life, I'm doing something that matters. Not for political gain or family honor, but because it's right. It might get us killed. Everything might get us killed. At least this would be a death with purpose." She paused. "But I'd prefer to live and see their faces when they're arrested." "That would be nice," I agreed. "Marcus," she hesitated, then continued, "after this is over, after my 3 months are up, what happens?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I suppose you go back to your life and I go back to mine." "Right." She stood abruptly. "I should get some rest. Big day tomorrow." As she walked away, I wanted to call her back, to say something about how these weeks had been the most alive I'd felt in years. But the words stuck in my throat, weighted down by the collar around her neck and the impossibility of our situation. Tomorrow, we would fly into danger together. We would risk everything to expose the truth. And if we survived, she would leave, and I would go back to my quiet life at the edge of space. Except I knew, watching her disappear into her quarters, that quiet was no longer what I wanted. The station felt less like a refuge and more like a prison. And the thought of going back to my solitary existence, after experiencing her brilliant, infuriating, intoxicating presence was almost unbearable. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, we prepared for war. The modified shuttle sat in the docking bay, ugly and functional and perfect. Our evidence was backed up in a dozen locations. The coordinates were locked in. In 6 hours, we would either expose one of the largest corruption scandals in Alliance history or die trying. I ran my hand along the shuttle's hull, feeling the mix of human engineering and Solari innovation beneath my fingers. Like everything Vera touched, it had been transformed from ordinary to extraordinary, including, I was beginning to realize, me. "Can't sleep either," her voice came from behind me. I turned to find her in casual clothes, her silver hair pulled back, looking younger and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. "Just checking the systems," I lied. "They're perfect. We checked them 6 times. She moved to stand beside me. "We're going to succeed. You know. I can feel it." Solari intuition. Human optimism. "I think I caught it from you." She smiled, and for a moment, the weight of tomorrow lifted. "Vera," I started, but she put a finger to my lips. "Tomorrow," she said. "Whatever you're going to say, save it for tomorrow, when we've won." She was right. Tomorrow would bring victory or disaster, freedom or death. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, we stood together in the docking bay, 2 exiles preparing to take on the galaxy. And for the first time since I'd arrived at this forgotten station, I wasn't alone. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. The transfer point coordinates led us to a dead zone between 3 star systems. A perfect void where sensor arrays couldn't reach and patrol routes never crossed. Our modified shuttle slipped through space like a ghost, the cloaking system humming with barely contained energy. "Power consumption is higher than projected," Vera reported, her hands dancing over the controls. "We'll have 40 minutes of full cloak, maybe less." "That should be enough to document the transfer and get out." "Should be," she agreed, but I heard the uncertainty in her voice. We dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of sensor range, immediately engaging the cloak. The shuttle vanished from every spectrum, becoming nothing more than a whisper in the cosmic background radiation. "There," Vera pointed at her display. 3 ships converging on the coordinates. Through the viewport, I could see them. An Alliance patrol cruiser, its official markings pristine. A cargo hauler with deliberately obscured registration. And a sleek yacht that screamed money and privilege. "Recording everything," Vera confirmed. "Audio, visual, energy signatures. If they so much as sneeze, we'll have it documented." We drifted closer, using minimal thrust to maintain our cover. Through the enhanced sensors, we could see figures moving between the ships through temporary docking tubes, crates being transferred, money changing hands. "That's Administrator Reeves," Vera whispered, highlighting a figure on the yacht. "Sector Commander for Trade Regulation. And that's Captain Torres from the patrol cruiser. And the cargo hauler. Running facial recognition now." Her expression darkened. "Marcus, those aren't traders. They're slavers. That ship is full of people." My hands tightened on the controls. "How many?" "Heat signatures suggest at least 50. Maybe more." She pulled up more data. "They're being sold to mining operations in unregulated space." "We have to stop this." "We can't. Not without exposing ourselves and losing all our evidence." Her voice was steady, but I could see her knuckles white as she gripped the console. "If we act now, they scatter, and we lose our only chance to expose the entire network." She was right. But watching those crates transfer, knowing what they contained, went against every instinct I had. "Wait," Vera said suddenly. "Something's wrong. Energy spike from the patrol cruiser." The space around us suddenly filled with scanning beams, high-intensity sensor sweeps that our cloak couldn't fully deflect. "They know we're here," I said. "Impossible, the cloak is perfect." "Then someone told them?" I was already bringing engines online. "We've been set up." The yacht's weapons powered up, followed immediately by the patrol cruisers. They couldn't see us exactly, but they were sweeping the area with targeting solutions, firing at anything that might be a cloaked ship. 30 seconds until they get lucky, Vera calculated. Then we make our own luck. I killed the cloak, channeling all power to engines and shields. Hold on. The shuttle burst into visibility already at full thrust, diving between the converging ships like a dart through a storm. Plasma fire erupted around us. But I was already rolling, using every trick I'd learned in the military, and a few I'd invented since. "They're jamming our transmissions," Vera reported. "We can't send the evidence." "Then we run. Get back to the station and upload from there."
"They'll follow us. Let them try."
But even as I pushed the shuttle beyond its limits, I knew we were in trouble. The patrol cruiser was faster, the yacht had better weapons, and we were one small shuttle with nowhere to hide. "Marcus," Vera said quietly, "I'm sorry."
"For what?"
"For this." She pulled out a small device I didn't recognize and pressed it against the collar around her neck. The metal band flared with energy, then fell away in pieces.
"How did you—"
"I've been able to remove it for weeks, but it has a tracking beacon. The moment it came off, every Alliance ship in 3 sectors was alerted." She met my eyes. "Including the ones that aren't corrupt." "You're calling in the cavalry." "I'm causing chaos. In about 5 minutes, this area is going to be swarming with Alliance ships. The corrupt ones won't be able to silence all of them."
"And we'll be caught in the middle. Maybe. Or maybe we slip away in the confusion." She smiled, sad and beautiful. "Either way, the truth gets out."
The first hyperspace signatures appeared on our sensors. Alliance ships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with weapons hot, and questions ready. The corrupt ships immediately began broadcasting official-sounding explanations, but more ships kept arriving. "This is Commander Walsh of the Alliance Destroyer Vigilance." A voice crackled through the chaos. "All vessels, stand down immediately. We're responding to a priority fugitive alert."
"That would be me,"
Vera said. "All vessels, be advised," Walsh continued. "We're also investigating reports of illegal slave trading in this sector. Any ship attempting to leave will be considered hostile." The cargo hauler made a run for it. Bad decision. The Vigilance's weapons carved through its engines in seconds, leaving it drifting and helpless. In the chaos, I saw our chance. "Vera, can you bounce our evidence packet off the Vigilance's comm array?"
"If we get close enough."
She was already working.
"But they'll detect us." "Good, let them."
I pushed the shuttle toward the destroyer, broadcasting on an emergency channel. "Commander Walsh, this is the shuttle Scrapyard Ghost. We have evidence of Alliance corruption and slave trading. Requesting permission to transmit." "Negative. Scrapyard Ghost. You're harboring a fugitive. Prepare to be boarded." "The only thing we're harboring is evidence that Administrator Reeves is selling people to slavers." I broadcast on an open channel. Every ship in the area would hear it. "Check the cargo hauler. Check it now." There was a pause. Then Walsh's voice. Different now. Harder. "Vigilance boarding teams to the cargo hauler. Scrapyard Ghost. Transmit your evidence and prepare for escort to Alliance Station." Vera sent everything. The financial records, the communication logs, the video we'd just recorded. It streamed across space to the Vigilance and, through her systems, to Alliance Central Command.
"It's done,"
she said softly.
"Whatever happens now, they can't hide it."
Administrator Reeves's yacht tried to run. Captain Torres's patrol cruiser tried to claim authority. Both were disabled and boarded within minutes. The Alliance might be corrupt in places, but when faced with undeniable evidence of slave trading, the good ones acted swiftly. We were escorted back to the station under guard. Technically prisoners, but treated more like witnesses. Commander Walsh himself came aboard to review our evidence. "This is extensive," he said, scrolling through the data. "How long have you been investigating?" "About 3 weeks," I said. 3 weeks. He looked incredulous. "You uncovered a conspiracy this large in 3 weeks." "We're very motivated," Vera said dryly. Walsh studied her. "You're the Solari noble who caused the diplomatic incident. You were supposed to be under rehabilitation."
"I was. Marcus has been very rehabilitating."
She kept her expression neutral, but I caught the humor in her eyes.
"I've learned the value of honest work and following rules."
"Which is why you removed your compliance collar and triggered a sector-wide alert."
I followed the rule of doing what's right, she said. That's the most important one, isn't it?
Walsh looked between us, and I saw him making calculations. The evidence you've provided will lead to dozens of arrests. The slave ring alone will free hundreds of people. But you still violated Alliance law. Then arrest us, I said. But make sure the evidence gets to the right people first. I could note in my report that the collar malfunctioned due to damage sustained while rescuing refugees. That you immediately reported the malfunction and cooperated fully with our investigation. He stood. I'll need you both to testify at the trials, but I see no reason to detain you further. After he left, Vera and I sat in the workshop in stunned silence.
We did it, she finally said. You did it. That collar trick was brilliant.
Dangerously impulsive, you mean?
That too. I looked at her. How long have you really been able to remove it? Since the second day. She touched her neck where the collar had been, now showing only faint marks. But I had nowhere to go, and then I had a reason to stay. The investigation. Sure, she said. Let's call it the investigation. Before I could respond, my communication array lit up with incoming messages. Journalists, government officials, even some military contacts I hadn't heard from in years. The story was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire.
You're famous, Vera observed.
We're famous.
I've been famous. It's overrated.
She pulled up a newsfeed showing Administrator Reeves being arrested.
This is satisfaction.
The next days passed in a blur. Investigators came and went, taking statements and evidence. The slaves were freed, the conspirators arrested, and slowly, the corrupt network was dismantled. Through it all, Vera stayed, even though she was technically free to leave. Your 3 months aren't up, she said, when I asked why she hadn't gone. I'm nothing if not committed to finishing what I start. But I saw how she looked at departure schedules when she thought I wasn't watching. How she'd started organizing the workshop with labels I'd be able to understand after she left. She was preparing to go, and I was running out of reasons to ask her to stay. 2 weeks before her time was officially up, a ship arrived that made my blood run cold. Not a military vessel or mercenary crew, but something worse. A Solari diplomatic cruiser. All elegant lines and subtle menace. 3 Solari emerged, their silver skin gleaming in the station's harsh lights. The one in front was clearly nobility, carrying herself with the kind of authority that came from centuries of bloodline. Vera, she said, and that single word carried disappointment, frustration, and a hint of relief. Mother, Vera replied, her voice carefully neutral. Mother. I looked between them, seeing the resemblance now. The same elegant features, the same silver eyes, though the elders were harder, calculating. You've caused quite a stir, her mother said, exposing Alliance corruption, freeing slaves, making allies and enemies in equal measure. I did what was right. You did what was dramatic, as always. She turned to me. And you must be the human who corrupted my daughter.
I prefer to think of it as collaborative corruption, I said.
She studied me with those silver eyes, and I felt like she was dissecting my entire existence. Marcus Hale, decorated pilot, disgraced soldier, now a hero mechanic. You have an interesting relationship with authority. Authority and I agree to disagree. Indeed, she turned back to Vera. The family has negotiated with the Alliance. Your actions, while unorthodox, have brought honor to House Siltheta. The trade agreements you exposed as corrupt have been renegotiated in our favor. You're to return immediately. No. The word hung in the air like a challenge. No. Her mother's voice could have frozen plasma. You have obligations. Vera, a position to maintain, a marriage contract to honor. I formally renounce all claim to House Siltheta, Vera said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was saying. I forfeit my titles, my inheritance, and my obligations.
You would choose exile poverty, For what this human and his junkyard.
I choose freedom, Vera said. I choose making a difference instead of maintaining status. I choose, she glanced at me, then back at her mother. I choose my own path.
You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make.
Her mother stood silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Just slightly, but it transformed her face. You always were too much like your grandmother. She renounced her titles too. You know. Ran off with a terraforming engineer. She pulled out a small device, placing it on the workbench. Your personal accounts. I've transferred your education fund. It's not a fortune, but it should help with your choice.
Mother, I don't...
It's not family money. It's yours. You earned it by exposing corruption that would have eventually damaged House Siltheta. She moved toward the door, then paused. The marriage contract has been dissolved. Apparently, your intended was arrested for involvement in the slave trade. Quite embarrassing for his family.
How convenient, Vera said dryly.
Yes, isn't it?
Her mother met my eyes. Take care of her, Mr. Hale. She's more fragile than she appears.
I'm standing right here,
Vera protested. And she's prone to dramatic gestures when she feels strongly about something.
Still here.
Her mother smiled again. A real smile this time. Be happy, my dear. Even if it's not the happiness I imagined for you. She left without looking back, the diplomatic cruiser departing with considerably less drama than it had arrived. Vera stood staring at the device her mother had left, not touching it. You just gave up everything, I said quietly. No, she said. I just chose everything that matters. She turned to me. Unless you're planning to kick me out when my 3 months are up.
Vera, because I've been thinking, this station could use upgrading. Proper equipment, better defenses, maybe even expand into actual ship modification instead of just repairs. I have ideas. Many ideas. Probably too many ideas. Vera. And we work well together. The investigation proved that. We could be partners. Business partners. I mean, obviously, split everything 50-50. Vera. She stopped talking, looking at me with those silver eyes that had gone from hostile to hopeful over the past months. You talk too much, I said, and kissed her. She went still for a moment, then melted against me, her hands tangling in my hair. When we finally broke apart, she was smiling. That's not a business partnership, she pointed out. No, it's not. Good. Because I had a terrible business plan anyway. She kissed me again, quick and light. But I have an excellent life plan.
Does it involve staying?
It involves upgrading your terrible shower, fixing the heating in the quarters module, and possibly getting a pet. Do you like cats?
I've never had a cat.
Perfect. New experiences for both of us.
She picked up the device her mother had left. And with this, we can actually afford to make this place into something special.
It's already special.
It's a dump, she said affectionately. But it's our dump.
Over the next weeks, as the trials proceeded and the conspiracy unraveled, we transformed the station. Vera's ideas and resources combined with my experience created something neither of us had imagined. A repair station that became a hub for honest traders, avoiding the corruption of the core systems. A place where refugees could find help without questions. A home for 2 exiles who'd found something worth fighting for in each other. The day her official 3 months ended, I found her in the workshop, installing a new diagnostic system she'd designed. You know you're free to go, right? I said. No obligations, no collar, no requirements. She looked up at me, grease smudged on her silver cheek, wearing my old coveralls that were too big for her, surrounded by the chaos of our half-finished projects. Marcus Hale, she said formally. Are you trying to get rid of me?
Never.
Good, because I've already ordered new sheets for our quarters, and they were expensive. She went back to her work. Besides, someone needs to keep you from living like a hermit. And someone needs to keep you from starting interstellar incidents.
We prevent each other's worst impulses,
She agreed.
It's a perfect partnership.
That night, we took the shuttle out past the asteroid field to watch the stars. The same shuttle that had saved refugees, exposed corruption, and brought us together. Still ugly, still functional, still perfect.
I want to show you something,
I said, bringing up the navigation display. These are the coordinates for the most beautiful nebula in 3 sectors. It's a 2-day journey, completely off the trade routes. I've been saving it for a special occasion.
What's the occasion?
Your freedom, your choice to stay, us. I looked at her. I promised you a ride you'd never forget. She smiled. That brilliant, challenging smile that had gone from infuriating to essential. Then let's go. But I'm driving half the time. Your piloting is too conservative. My piloting is safe. Safe is boring. She engaged the hyperdrive. And we're done with boring. As the stars streaked past and the shuttle jumped to light speed, I thought about how much had changed. 3 months ago, the Alliance had dumped an unwanted problem at my garage. A punishment for her. An obligation for me. Now, she was my partner, my equal, my future. And I was taking her on that ride I'd promised. Not as an ending, but as a beginning. The first of many adventures we'd share in our corner of space. 2 exiles who'd found home in each other. Marcus, she said as the hyperdrive hummed around us.
Yeah.
Thank you. For seeing past the attitude and the anger. For giving me a chance to be more than what they said I was. Thank you for being impossible, I said. For breaking into my life and refusing to leave.
I'm very good at breaking things,
she agreed. But some things are better broken. Like corrupt trade networks. And lonely mechanics' hearts. Who says my heart was lonely? She just looked at me, one eyebrow raised in that expression that said she knew me better than I knew myself. Fine, I admitted. It was a little lonely.
It was pathetically lonely. But don't worry.
She laced her fingers through mine.
I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere.
Promise. I promise to be your cute trouble for as long as you'll have me.
Forever, then. Forever, she agreed. Now, about this nebula. How fast can this ugly shuttle really go?
Want to find out? Her grin was answer enough. We pushed the shuttle to its limits and beyond, racing toward a nebula that painted space in impossible colors. Behind us lay conspiracy and corruption. Ahead lay infinite possibility. And in that moment, in our ugly, functional, perfect shuttle, we were exactly where we belonged, together, free, and ready for whatever the galaxy threw at us next. The stars welcomed us home. The nebula was everything I'd promised and more. Clouds of stellar gas painted in impossible shades of violet and gold, shot through with veins of electric blue where newborn stars ignited. Vera pressed her face against the viewport, like a child seeing snow for the first time.
It's beautiful,
she breathed. Wait until you see the center. There's a binary star system that creates these light patterns. Marcus, she interrupted, her voice strange. We're not alone. On the scanner, 3 ships materialized from behind a dense gas cloud. Not Alliance vessels or random traders. These were predators, sleek and dangerous, with weapon signatures that made my military instincts scream. Pirates, Vera asked. Worse, bounty hunters. I recognized the lead ship's configuration. Remember Boss Krogar? Looks like he held a grudge. Can we outrun them? In this shuttle, not a chance. I was already plotting escape routes through the nebula. But we can outsmart them. The lead ship opened a channel. Marcus Hale, you cost me a fortune and my reputation. Time to pay up. Sorry, Krogar. I'm a little short on credits. Can I offer you some second-hand engine parts instead? His laugh was humorless. You're worth more dead than alive now, both of you. Amazing what people will pay to silence witnesses. The trials are over. Our testimony is already on record. But you're still gathering evidence. Still poking around where you shouldn't. His voice turned oily. Some very important people would sleep better, knowing your cosmic dust. Vera was already working on something at her console. Marcus, the nebula's radiation is interfering with their sensors. If we go deeper,
We'd be flying blind too.
not necessarily. She pulled up her modifications to our sensor array. Silari technology handles radiation differently. We'd have maybe 60% visibility.
And them.
10% if they're lucky. Then we go deep. I turned the shuttle toward the densest part of the nebula. Hold on. We plunged into a wall of superheated gas and radiation that would have killed us without shields. The shuttle bucked and shook, alarms screaming about hull stress and system overloads. Behind us, the bounty hunters followed, firing blindly into the cosmic soup. Left, now, Vera called out, reading sensors I couldn't interpret. I banked hard, just as a massive plasma bolt seared through where we'd been. The nebula's gases ignited in its wake, creating a brief inferno that illuminated our attackers. They're spreading out, Vera reported, trying to box us in. Then we give them something else to worry about. I spotted what I was looking for on the scanner. There, that asteroid. That's not an asteroid, it's a derelict ship.
Even better.
I pushed toward it, using the last of our engine reserves.
Can you trigger its emergency beacon?
Already on it. Her fingers flew over controls.
But why would we?
Oh, that's clever. The derelict's beacon erupted to life, sending out a distress signal that would be picked up by every ship within 3 systems, including the Alliance patrol that was surely monitoring this sector after recent events. They have maybe 20 minutes before company arrives, I said. Less, Vera corrected. I may have modified the beacon to broadcast their ship signatures as the ones in distress. The Alliance will think they're the ones who need rescuing.
Devious.
I learned from the best. Krogar's voice crackled through the static. Clever. But 20 minutes is more than enough time to kill you. He was right. We were running on fumes. Our shields were failing, and we were outnumbered 3-1. In a straight fight, we were dead.
Vera,
I said quietly.
I need you to trust me.
Always. When I tell you, kill everything. Engines, shields, life support. Everything except the emergency beacon. She looked at me, understanding dawning in her silver eyes. Playing dead. Playing bait. The next few minutes were the longest of my life. We let them chase us deeper into the nebula. Let them think they were winning. Their shots came closer, our evasions more desperate. Then, as we passed between 2 massive gas clouds, I gave the signal. Now, Vera killed our systems. The shuttle went dark, tumbling through space like debris. To anyone watching, it would look like a direct hit had taken us out.
They're scanning,
she whispered, emergency lighting casting her face in red shadows.
Let them.
The seconds crawled by. Then Krogar's ship moved closer, coming to confirm the kill. Just as I'd hoped. Wait for it, I breathed. They were 10 meters away when I grabbed the manual controls for our one remaining weapon. Not a ship's weapon, but a mining charge Vera had been experimenting with. I fired it point blank into their shields. The explosion was beautiful in its violence. Krogar's shields collapsed, his ship spinning away, trailing atmosphere and curses. Vera brought our systems back online just as the other 2 bounty hunters realized they'd been played. Now we run, I said. But we didn't need to. The nebula lit up with hyperspace exits as Alliance ships arrived in force. Commander Walsh's voice cut through the chaos. All vessels, this is the Alliance destroyer Vigilance. Stand down immediately. The remaining bounty hunters tried to flee. They made it about 30 seconds before tractor beams locked them in place. Scrapyard Ghost, Walsh called. Are you damaged? Nothing we can't fix, I replied. Thanks for the quick response. Thank the beacon. We thought you were under attack by pirates. There was amusement in his voice. Imagine our surprise finding wanted bounty hunters instead. After the Alliance took the hunters into custody, we limped back to our station. The shuttle needed major repairs, but we were alive. More importantly, we'd learned something crucial.
Someone's still after us, Vera said as we docked. The trials are over, but someone with deep pockets wants us gone.
Then we've still got work to do. She smiled, that dangerous smile I'd grown to love.
Good. I was worried life might get boring.
The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. A small, unassuming transport requested docking, and a single figure emerged. Human, elderly, wearing expensive but understated clothes. He introduced himself as Mr. Harrison, a name that meant nothing until he mentioned his employer. I represent Titan Shipyards, he said. I nearly choked on my coffee. Titan Shipyards was the largest ship manufacturer in human space. Their CEO was legendary, a recluse who'd built an empire from nothing. What does Titan want with a repair station? Vera asked suspiciously. Not the station. You. He looked at me. Mr. Hale, your recent actions have caught my employer's attention. Your skills, your integrity, your ability to inspire loyalty. He glanced at Vera. He's particularly impressed with your choice of partners. Thanks, but we're not interested in corporate life, I said. Oh, we're not offering you a job, Harrison smiled. We're offering you a partnership. You see, my employer has been aware of your true identity for some time. The room went cold. Vera looked between us, confused. True identity, she asked. Harrison pulled out a secure data pad. Marcus Hale, former test pilot for Titan's military division, designer of the Phantom-class stealth system, and silent partner in over 200 shipyard facilities across the galaxy. Vera turned to stare at me. What? It's complicated, I said. Complicated. Her voice rose. You own 200 shipyards. Technically, they're held in trust. I walked away from all of it after the military discharge. You walked away from a fortune to fix broken shuttles in the middle of nowhere. I walked away from blood money. I met Harrison's eyes. Every ship I designed was used in wars I didn't believe in. Every credit I earned came from conflicts that shouldn't have happened. Which is why my employer wants to make you an offer. Harrison placed a contract on the table. Full control of your assets. No military contracts. Focus on civilian vessels, exploration, refugee transportation, the kind of ships that save lives instead of ending them. I stared at the contract. It was everything I'd wanted 5 years ago, before I'd become too disillusioned to care. Why now? Vera asked, her tactical mind working. Why approach Marcus now? Because the corruption you exposed goes deeper than you know. The same networks that were running slaves are controlling ship production, limiting technology to maintain their power. My employer wants to break their monopoly. Your employer, I said slowly. Would that be Thomas Titan himself? Harrison smiled. Mr. Titan prefers to remain anonymous. But he did ask me to give you this. He handed me a small device. When activated, it projected a hologram of a man I hadn't seen in 10 years. My mentor, the one who taught me everything about ship design before disappearing into corporate legend. Hello, Marcus, the hologram said. I've been watching your work, both the ships you've designed and the lives you've saved. It's time to stop hiding. The galaxy needs builders, not warriors. And you've found someone who shares that vision. The hologram turned to Vera. Ms. Siltheta, your modifications to Marcus's designs are brilliant. The fusion of human and Solari technology could revolutionize space travel. I'm offering you both the chance to change the galaxy, not through conflict, but through creation. The message ended, leaving us in stunned silence. This is too much, Vera said finally. There has to be a catch. The catch, Harrison said, is that you'll make enemies. The corporations benefiting from the current system won't appreciate competition. The corrupt officials you exposed have friends. You'll be targets. We're already targets, I pointed out. True, but with Titan's resources, you'll be targets with the best security, legal protection, and technology credits can buy. Vera took the contract, reading it with the intensity she usually reserved for hacking secure systems. This is legitimate, full autonomy, controlling interest, no military obligations. She looked up. It's everything you could want. What about what you want? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. I want to build something, not destroy, not expose, but create. I want to take Solari technology and human innovation and make something neither could achieve alone. She met my eyes. I want to do it with you. Then we accept, I told Harrison. Excellent. Mr. Titan will be pleased. He stood to leave, then paused. Oh, there's one more thing. A message from my employer. He said you'd understand. He handed me a small card with just a few words. The best revenge is a life well lived. After Harrison left, Vera and I sat in the workshop, staring at the contract that would change everything. You lied to me, she said quietly. I omitted. You omitted 200 shipyards worth of truth. I wanted you to see me as I am, not what I owned. She was quiet for a moment, then laughed. Do you know what this means? I gave up my inheritance to be with a secret billionaire? My mother is going to be insufferable. You're not angry. I'm processing. She stood, pacing the workshop. You could have lived anywhere, done anything, but you chose to hide here. I was broken, I admitted. The military, the betrayals, the sense that everything I created was twisted into weapons. I couldn't face it anymore. She stopped pacing, came to stand in front of me. And now I have you, and maybe that's enough to try again. Maybe, she kissed me, soft and sweet. Definitely, but I have conditions. Of course you do. First, we keep the station. It's home. Agreed. Second, I get equal say in all designs. No human superiority complex. Your ideas are usually better anyway. Third, we start with refugee ships. Give people like those we saved real options for escape. I love you, I said, the words escaping before I could stop them. She froze, those silver eyes wide. What? I love you. Your impossible standards, your brilliant mind, your refusal to accept anything less than justice. I love that you could have gone anywhere after the collar came off but chose to stay. I love you too, she said quietly. You stubborn, secretive, ridiculously noble human. I love that you see me as more than a problem to be solved or a noble to be appeased. So we do this together. Together. The next months were a whirlwind. We kept the station as our base, but it transformed from a simple repair shop to a design hub. Ships arrived daily, not for repairs but for revolutionary upgrades. The fusion of human and Solari technology created vessels faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything before. We hired staff, both human and alien, creating a team that reflected our vision of cooperation. The old workshop became a prototype facility where impossible ideas became reality. And through it all, Vera and I worked side by side, arguing about design specifications during the day and watching stars at night. 6 months after accepting Titan's offer, we unveiled our first complete design, a rescue vessel capable of evacuating entire colonies, with shields that could withstand stellar radiation and engines that could outrun military interceptors. We called it the Phoenix class for rising from ashes. The launch was held at our station, transformed for the occasion into something almost respectable. Representatives from dozens of worlds attended, including some surprising faces. Commander Walsh was there, now Admiral Walsh, shaking my hand with genuine warmth. You've done good, Hale. Captain Foster of the refugee transport we'd saved, brought her entire crew. We wanted to see the ship that will save others, like you saved us. Even Vera's mother attended, arriving in subdued elegance rather than dramatic entrance.
I see you've done well for yourself, she told Vera.
We've done well, Vera corrected, taking my hand.
Her mother studied us, then smiled. Your grandmother would be proud. She always said the best partnerships were built on shared rebellion. But the most unexpected guest arrived last. Thomas Titan himself, emerging from a standard shuttle with no fanfare. He was older than I remembered. Gray, where there had been brown. Lines where there had been smooth skin. But his eyes were the same, sharp and kind.
Marcus, he said simply. It's good to see you building again.
Tom. We embraced, 10 years of distance dissolving. Thank you. For waiting. For believing.
Thank Vera. He turned to her with a smile. Your modifications to his designs are what convinced me it was time. You bring out the best in each other. As the Phoenix launched, rising from our station with grace that defied its size, I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace exactly, but purpose. No regrets, Vera asked, standing beside me as we watched our creation disappear into hyperspace for its first rescue mission.
None, you.
One.
She turned to face me. I should have broken into your workshop sooner.
The crowd laughed and celebrated around us. But in that moment, we might as well have been alone. Two exiles who'd found home in each other, building a future from the wreckage of our pasts. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the station was quiet, we sat in the workshop where it all began. The space that had once held broken shuttles now contained holographic designs for ships that would change the galaxy.
We've come a long way from you calling me cute trouble,
Vera mused. You're still trouble, just on a larger scale now.
And you're still a hermit, just with better company.
The best company. Oh, alert chimed on our system. Another crisis. Another call for help. A colony ship was stranded in hostile space, their distress beacon barely reaching civilized systems. Want to take the Ghost for one more rescue? I asked.
Is that even a question?
She was already pulling up navigation charts.
But I'm driving.
You always drive?
Because I'm better at it.
As we prepared to launch, I caught sight of our reflection in the darkened viewport. Two unlikely partners, bound by choice rather than obligation, ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at us. Hey, Vera. Yes.
That ride I promised you, the one you'd never forget.
What about it? It's not over. It's just beginning. She smiled, brilliant and fierce in mine.
Good. Because I have so many modifications planned for the shuttle.
We launched into the stars, the ugly little Ghost carrying its odd couple crew toward another impossible rescue. Behind us, our station hummed with activity, building the future one ship at a time. Ahead, the galaxy waited with all its dangers and possibilities. But in that moment, flying through space with Vera beside me, her hand in mine as she definitely exceeded safe velocity limits, I knew we'd found something worth more than all the shipyards in the galaxy. We'd found each other, and that was the beginning of everything. The Ghost's engines roared as we jumped to hyperspace, racing toward people who needed saving. It wasn't the ending to our story. It was the promise of countless adventures to come. Two rebels against a corrupt system. Two builders in a galaxy that needed hope. Two hearts that had found their match in the most unlikely circumstances. Marcus, Vera said as stars streaked past. Yeah. Next time someone dumps their problems at your garage, maybe check their luggage first. Why, the last unwanted problem worked out pretty well.
True, but I'd prefer to remain your only cute trouble.
Deal, but you have to stop reorganizing my tools.
Never.
And in the vast emptiness of space, racing toward another chance to make a difference. I couldn't imagine wanting to be anywhere else. The galaxy's best-kept secret wasn't my hidden fortune or Vera's brilliant mind. It was that sometimes The best things in life come disguised as punishment, wrapped in silver skin and attitude, carrying suspicious luggage and a talent for chaos. Sometimes, salvation looks like trouble. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that trouble chooses to stay. Forever.